as a not-for-profit organization, the Father's Day Committee, which is part of the Father's Day and Mother's Day Council, not only honors great dads and raises the profile of Father's Day, but also channels funds raised by these award lunches to help meaningful philanthropies dealing with issues involving fathers, mothers, and children. To date, the council has donated over $35 million to deserving family-related charities nationwide.
I should start by saying I'm not the great public speaker. I passed out during my best friend's wedding giving a speech, so I am truly humbled by this opportunity to be before so many role models and iconic people today. In my everyday life, I may have many roles that I play, but being a father and a husband is by far the most meaningful to me. Thank you so much once again for this truly amazing opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you to the Father's Day Council and Mark Shriver. It's quite a tradition to be part of. The fact for 74 years, these awards have existed to enhance the meaning of Father's Day. And as we approach Father's Day this Sunday, I can't think of a better charity to be on our minds and to benefit from today than Save the Children. That is the biggest honor, to play a role with all of you in the crucial work that these people do, investing in children and therefore in the future. I appreciate the chance. Thank you very much.
I want to thank Matthew for this honor. I appreciate you thinking of me, and I thank Mark Shriver for being here. You know what really irritates me? Somebody's got a famous family name. But I thank you, Mark, for being here, and it's good to see you. They asked me to give a few comments about what fatherhood means to me. I'll tell you what it meant to me. It meant that it focused my attention on what's important in life. People say, what's it like raising teenage girls? Here's my line. I love you. There is nothing you can do to make me stop loving you, so stop trying. I also learned of unconditional love. It's one of the greatest gifts a dad can give a child. Thank you very much.
And finally, thanks to all of you for coming to help honor these men today. This concludes our event. I want everyone to have a great day. It is important for all of you to go home and hug your children and tell them that you love them. Happy Father's Day to everybody. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dan Orwig. I'm the President and CEO of the National Mother's Day Father's Day Council. I'm honored to welcome you all here to the 2015 Father of the Year Awards Luncheon. Sorry, I'm going to ask you to stand again, but would you please rise for the singing of our national anthem by the New Amsterdam Boys and Girls Choir. Thank you. That was wonderful. This is a New Amsterdam Boys and Girls Choir, third year in a row with us. It's always great having the kids celebrate this great day. Special thank you to their spectacular director, James Backman. So it sounds like everyone started to enjoy their lunch, but please do as we begin our program. I would like to personally thank everyone here today for their support as we celebrate the Father's Day holiday, and congratulate our 2015 Father of the Year honorees. President George W. Bush, Morris Goldfarb, and this year's GQ Sani Family Foundation All-Star Dad, David Gonzalez. I would like to take a minute to express my appreciation and gratitude to this year's sponsors, as you should see running on our screens above, and a special thanks to our presidential sponsors, G3 Apparel Group, Peerless Clothing International, PVH Corporation, Ralph Lauren Corporation, Ross Stores Incorporated, and the Sani Family Foundation. Thank you for all that you do to make this such a special day. Now I would like to introduce Matthew Youngs, the chairman of the National Father's Day Committee. I think my fellow committee members would agree Matthew did an outstanding job with this year's event. It's been a pleasure working alongside him. Ladies and gentlemen, Matthew Youngs.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you to all of you. It is an incredible turnout today, so thank you very much for being here. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to honor these deserving fathers for all that they have accomplished with us. We have a very exciting event planned for today and are proud to celebrate these men whose dedication to their families, careers, and public service are representative of what all parents should aspire to achieve. For today's event, we will be sharing with it live from a tweeting perspective today. So if you'd like to join the conversation or give a special congratulatory message to our honorees, you can follow us on Twitter or Instagram at FOTY_awards. And please use the hashtag FOTYAwards2015. So post your pictures and make sure you use the hashtag. Since 1931, when the Father's Day Council was organized, we have recognized more than 450 outstanding dads. We're delighted to have some of them with us here today. If they could please rise when I call their name. Ronnie Wurzberger. Oscar Feldenkrais. Mark Schreiber. Michael Satola. And Joe Rivers. Gentlemen, thank you for being here today. As a not-for-profit organization, the Father's Day Committee, which is part of the Father's Day and Mother's Day Council, not only honors great dads and raises the profile of Father's Day, but also channels funds raised by these award lunches to help meaningful philanthropies dealing with issues involving fathers, mothers, and children. To date, the Council has donated over $35 million to deserving family-related charities nationwide. In today's world, when so many families are struggling just to survive, underprivileged children need our help more than ever. We are pleased to be donating the proceeds of today's luncheon to Save the Children's U.S. programs, which heroically provides provides hope and aid to those who need it most. We are so proud to partner with Save the Children again this year. So as we turn to the awards portion of the luncheon, I'd like to introduce today's Master of Ceremonies and a 2008 Father of the Year honoree, Mark Schreiber. Those of you who have been with us in the past know that this is Mark's fourth year as our MC. His candor at our events is always appreciated, and it reflects the true spirit of our organization. Before I invite Mark to come up to the podium, I'd like to share part of his resume with you, and remember, this is only a portion of his accomplishments. As president of Save the Children Action Network, Mark leads an effort to mobilize Americans to make children at home and abroad a national priority. His career fighting for social justice in advocacy and service organizations has focused on advancing the right of every child to a safe and vibrant childhood. He started Save the Children's early childhood development, literacy, and health programs in the United States, which under his leadership have expanded to 220 schools in 17 states, benefiting 165 children living in some of the country's most impoverished regions. In 2005, Mark created Save the Children's domestic emergency programs to ensure the safety and well-being of children before, during, and after disaster strikes. He led a national coalition that convinced Congress to create the National Commission on Children and Disasters. He was appointed to the commission by Senator Harry Reid. Mark wrote a New York Times and Washington Post best-selling memoir, A Good Man, Rediscovering My Father, Sargent Shriver. That book received a 2013 Christopher Award. He and his wife, Jeannie, are the proud parents of 3 children, Molly, Tommy, and Emma. He is a longtime supporter and friend to the Father's Day and Mother's Day Council. We are honored to have Mark with us here again today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mark Shriver.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Matthew. Good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon. You know, we're all having a couple of days before Father's Day. This is a fun event, right, Mr. President? Absolutely. I want to thank Matthew for those very kind words, and I want to extend my congratulations to Morris and to David, and of course to President Bush. I just had a chance to meet Morris and David. I met President Bush on a couple of occasions, and if you would just indulge me for a second, I wanted to thank President Bush so much for the honor, the huge honor he had for my mom, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, just before she passed away. President Bush had a dinner in her honor at the White House, and really in honor of my mom and Special Olympics. So thank you, Mr. President, for that. I know my mom was so proud of the fact that you had done volunteer work for the Texas Special Olympics and was so honored when your mom and dad, then Vice President Bush, came to Notre Dame, the highest ranking American official ever to go to a Special Olympics event in the late 80s. And I would be remiss, Mr. President, if I didn't also tell you that at Save the Children's Gala a couple of years ago, your daughter Jenna was the host and did an absolutely fantastic job. So some of you may think that this is like a Bush-Shriver love fest going on here. But I will tell you, Mr. President, I was also honored when your mom and dad invited me down to Houston for the Barbara Bush Family Literacy event, which is, as you know, they bring down best-selling authors to say a few words about the books they just wrote. And I was invited down there with John Meacham, who's won a Pulitzer Prize, he's #1. Brad Thor, who's written a #1 bestsellers, about 4 or 5 of them, and another woman named Mary Neal, who wrote a bestseller. And then there was me. So it was like all of these are like each other except for one. So I was really honored to be there. I had lunch with your mom and dad and a couple of members of the Bush family. I was feeling really good about myself. You know, we're 2,000 people in the heart of Texas, right in Houston. And I was going to give a little talk about this book I wrote. And I get in the elevator at the hotel. And I walk in, and this guy with the big cowboy hat gets in with the cowboy boots on. And he looks at me and he goes, "Damn, anybody ever told you you look like a Kennedy?" And I looked at him and I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "That must make you so mad." So welcome to New York, Mr. President. That's actually a true story. And everything else I've said up to this point is true too. So now comes the fun part of the day. You have their little smartphones. We're going to do a little text to pledge. I know it's really awkward. Everybody, I was at a table the other day where this happened, and the guy got up like I am and asked you to do a text to pledge, and the guy sitting next to me got on there and started typing away, and I looked over about 2 minutes into it. He was on ESPN. So I know if you really feel like it's really as awkward as some of us do, you can pick it up and check your text. But we're going to ask you to try to text for Save the Children's programs here in the U.S. Last year we did it and raised over $20,000. So if you grab your phone and do this kind of quickly. Are you taking pictures? That's okay. You're an honoree. You can do whatever you want. It's okay. So you grab your phone, and I'm going to read this so I don't screw it up. You go onto the screen and you type in 347. Everybody paying attention? 347-602-3157 in the address line. And then you type in, this is all behind me, then you type in your name or your company name, the amount of you want to pledge, and any short message you want to send to all of us here today, or you can do it anonymously if you prefer. And the tax-deductible contribution will go, as Matthew said, to support children right here in the United States and across the country. So we're going to see who's going to be the first one to pledge here. Hopefully this works. So we've got, okay, there we go. President Bush, there from Kenny Bunkport. Is that a joke? Is that you, Mr. President? Is that you? Thank you, President Bush, $1,700. No, that's not you. It was somebody else who told me that they were going to do that, but no, 1,000. Oh, it's $1,000. I thought it was 1,700. All right, so we're going to ask you a couple times during this event to do it. As soon as we're out of here, this is no longer available, so I hope you'll take a chance to help out Save the Children's work. As Matthew said, we are working all across America in over 200 schools, trying to bring high-quality early childhood education, health services, and also responding to disasters. We are very proud of the work that Save the Children did here in New York, in New Jersey, and Connecticut after Hurricane Sandy hit just a couple of years ago. And the services that we were providing, as I was just saying to President Bush, are to some of the poorest kids in this country, not only in urban areas, but primarily in rural areas, trying to make sure that kids are entering kindergarten ready to learn. That for a kid who lives in poverty in this country, they are at the age of 4, they're 18 months behind kids that are not living in poverty. So Save the Children is in the homes, working with the mothers and the fathers, trying to get those kids ready to enter kindergarten, ready to learn, so that they can succeed in elementary school and high school and beyond, so that they can realize their dreams, whatever they have for dreams. So I hope you will help us out. We'd love to have, obviously, 100% participation. So I want to introduce, moving the program along, Howard Mittman, who's the publisher of GQ magazine, who will be presenting the 2015 Ashok Santi All-Star Dad Award, sponsored by GQ. Come on up, Howard, please.
Thank you. I have no personal stories about the Bushes or the Kennedys, but I'm really excited to be here, and I want to thank everyone here on this panel for having us and allowing GQ to be a part of it. Ashok Sani was a beloved husband and father. While he considered his family to be his calling, he also had a deep commitment to giving equal recognition to all. His interests in ethics, truth, love, peace, nonviolence, compassion, and moral social responsibilities all live on through the Ashok Sani Scholar in Residence program at New York University and the Ashok Sani All-Star Dad Award, both of which are underwritten by the Sani Family Foundation. Thank you to all of you for that. We appreciate it. In the spirit of Ashok Sani, GQ invited its readers to submit nominations for this year's All-Star Dad. The All-Star Dad Awards honors a father who goes beyond being a responsible caregiver and a loving mentor. We look for a father who gives extraordinarily to his family and to the world around him, a man whose tireless efforts make life better for both his children and his community. This year, we were incredibly lucky. We found someone with the National Father's Day Committee and the Sani Family Foundation that we found to be an exemplary representative for all of us. David Gonzalez is our 2015 All-Star Dad. At this time, I'm incredibly lucky to be able to call up his daughter, Marissa, to come up here to the podium and share her winning essay that won all of us at GQ over with its love and compassion. Please welcome her with me.
First of all, I'd like to thank this opportunity for recognizing my dad. I know everyone thinks their dad is special or the best. To that person, he is. But to my dad, to me, he absolutely is. Our story might be a little different from others. My dad and I met when I was 3. He was a friend of our family, so he went to family dinners and parties. Him and my mom eventually started dating, and the rest is history. Since that moment, he took me and accepted me as his own, and has been the only father I've ever known. Over the years, I've learned so many lessons from him as lived through very difficult situations in our life that have served as lesson points for me. Probably the most important lesson I think he wants me to take from him is to work hard and believe in myself. However, I think the most important lesson that he has taught without realizing it is unconditional love. I am sure it's not easy for a man to come into a family and accept a child that is not really his. He has never made me feel like I didn't belong. Every day when he comes home from work, I can count on him to find me in the house and give me a hug and ask me how my day was. Even though he works very hard and has to take side jobs often on weekends, he always finds a moment to plan a father-daughter movie date or a dinner date just to talk about what's going on. He makes me laugh when I want to cry. He makes me smile when I feel discouraged. Most of all, he has made me feel a blessing instead of a burden. Some fathers are given by chance, but some are given by God. I am thankful that my dad was chosen for me, and I will never take that for granted because of him. I know how to love, and even in the harsh world, I'm without expecting it in return. I am so blessed and grateful to the council and so many of you here today that you are being recognized for being such a wonderful father. Thank you.
Whew. Wow. This is amazing. I am truly honored to be up here. I should start by saying I'm not the great public speaker. I passed out during my best friend's wedding giving a speech, so here he goes. Wow. I want to first thank this wonderful organization for making this possible. Hearing the mission of Ashur Sani was inspirational and makes me even more proud to be standing before you today. I am truly humbled by this opportunity to be before so many role models and iconic people today. I also want to sincerely thank my daughter Marissa for writing such a beautiful essay. Thank you, baby. It is amazing to be, thank you. It is amazing to be recognized for doing something that I love, just being a dad. I hadn't even remembered that I wasn't your father, biological father, until I read this essay. I am your dad in every sense of the word. You make it incredibly easy for me to be your dad and love you. Thank you. Being blessed with this honor has really reinforced what being a great father means to me. It has inspired me to take a step back and want to continue to show my children through my actions and examples how impactful they can be in this world. In my everyday life, I may have many roles that I play, but being a father and a husband is by far the most meaningful to me. Thank you so much once again for this truly amazing opportunity. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Congratulations.
Congratulations, David. Our next award goes to a retail industry legend who many of us in the room have had the privilege of working with. To tell us a bit more about him, I'd like to invite his children, Jeff and Laura, to the stage to introduce their father, Chairman, CEO, and President of G3 Apparel Group, Morris Goldfarb.
Good afternoon, and congratulations to all of today's honorees. You are all inspirations, and it's a privilege to share today's stage with you. A few months ago, when I heard my father was going to be honored today, I had a good laugh. But I was not surprised. Like many great father-son relationships, ours is unique in its own way. Sure, today we work together, we vacation together, we hang out on the weekend, and we live about a mile apart. But growing up, I really never understood the meaning within the Morris brand pep talk. Luckily, early on in my own journey as a father, I realized the wisdom of Morris. My dad never really cared if I fell, if I stumbled, or if I missed that last shot. What really mattered was how I shook it off, got back up, and put myself in position to try again. It always was, and it continues to be, about making a 100% effort, taking pride in what you do, and always betting on yourself. It's not easy understanding that as a child, and as a parent, it's nearly impossible to communicate. I eventually figured it out, and today we have an unshakable bond built on respect, love, and a lot of laughter. My dad, Morris Goldfarb, is really an amazing man. He has strong values and deep love for his family and friends. Some attributes of his that stand out to me are hard work, self-determination, adventure, and family. Nobody works harder than Morris. He's the first one in the office, and he's usually the last to leave. But work does not stop when he leaves 512 7th Avenue. As anybody who works with Morris can tell you, he's available 24/7, no matter where in the world he may be. He loves what he does and freely admits that he isn't qualified for any other job. My dad is literally a force of nature. His always bet on yourself mentality and anything is possible vision is hard to keep up with. But his drive creates a momentum that only great leaders have. I'm incredibly proud to be part of his team and believe that anything is possible at G3 and at home. My dad does not like to sit still. He's always on the move. His sense of adventure has taken him from barbecues with nomads in the Gobi Desert and lunch with just about every factory owner in Asia to some of the best places in the world with my mom, his high school sweetheart, and the only one who remembers when he was just called Mo. There are no more supportive people in the world than my folks. My dad is always there for me at work or at home with advice and a creative solution. Knowing that he has my back is one of the most important things in my life. Whether it's work, family, or even just a random idea, I know that he's always available. Often the advice that he gives comes from the lessons he learned from his father. See, my dad, he remembers where he came from, and with great respect and admiration tells the story of my grandfather, the ultimate survivor. I read President Bush's book earlier this year, and in one passage, he describes the character of his father as daring and courageous, always seeking new adventures and new challenges. He was humble and quick to share credit. He deflected attention from himself and refused to brag about his accomplishments. He trusted others and inspired their loyalty. And above all, he found joy in his family and faith. Nothing made him happier than being surrounded by his wife, children, and grandchildren in a place where he had so many wonderful memories. When I read that, I felt as if it was the perfect description of my own father. And it's the lessons that we learn from our fathers that we pass to our children. Fathers teach their sons how to be good men, and their daughters what good men are made of. Congratulations, Dad. We're so proud of you.
As a child, I always knew my dad and I had a special bond. We are both the older siblings, early risers, stubborn, independent, and passionate about our family. I remember growing up how he would leave so early so he could be the first one in the office. My mom had him trained so well that he would actually wake up before the alarm went off so he didn't wake her. He would get ready in the dark and tiptoe past our rooms. Every once in a while, I would hear him from my room, and he would open my door just to say good morning. Always leading the charge at home and work, he would travel to Asia many times a year, never forgetting to check in during the layover in Anchorage, Alaska. The sacrifices he has made for our family are amazing, and we love him for it. However, when he was home, he was there 100%. He would always make time for me and my brother. He would coach our games, attend our shows and recitals, help us with our homework, and just be there for us. During vacations, he and I would get up early to take walks on the beach and have breakfast together. Even today, when I'm in New York or he's visiting Miami, we still have breakfast together or go for a walk when everyone is still asleep. Today, he is an amazing grandfather who has a unique and special relationship with each of his grandchildren. He is a great mentor who listens, and no matter what generation, still gives that special Morris pep talk. But we love him for it, and I don't know where I would be without his support and love. Although my father has always been there for me and my family, he is also a man who will do anything for a friend in need and a cause he cares about. He has touched the hearts of many in this room through his charitable endeavors and encourages me and my family to do the same. Every year, my children learn about a charity and choose one of their choice, which my parents will support. Not only is my father charitable and generous to his family, he is also the same with his friends as well as mine and my brothers. I think that he has given half of Scarsdale internships at G3. He is so well-liked and respected that everyone seeks his advice and values the time he gives them. Although my brother and I joke about who actually selected my dad for this award, to us, it was a very simple choice. I would hands down pick my father for the best father of the year, today and always. I'm the luckiest girl to have you as my father, and we are also fortunate to be able to share this very special day with you. Congratulations, Dad. We love you so much.
Well, it doesn't get any better than that. Thank you, Laura and Jeff. And thank you to the Father's Day Council and Mark Shriver. A very special thank you to Jeanette Nostra for everything you did to make this happen. I'm certainly honored today, especially in the company of President Bush and of David Gonzalez, the 2015 All-Star Dad honoree. Congratulations, Marissa, on that wonderful essay. It's quite a tradition to be part of. The fact for 74 years, these awards have existed to enhance the meaning of Father's Day. And as we approach Father's Day this Sunday, I can't think of a better charity to be on our minds and to benefit from today than Save the Children. When I was preparing for this moment, I did some research on the difference a dad can make. The U.S. Census Bureau points out that some 90% of the homeless and runaway children in this country come from homes without fathers, as do 71% of our high school dropouts, no dads. 85% of our young people in prison grew up in fatherless homes. Kids without fathers are among the hundreds of thousands being helped each year by Save the Children. This organization is so important that it is extra humbling to receive this award because today benefits them. And I have to admit, I don't think I actually deserve this award. 5 years ago, Stuart Goldblatt, a Father's Day Council board member, called me and asked me if I would be the honoree. I confess, deserving or not, I was excited by the thought of the title, Father of the Year. That's pretty cool. But when I asked my son Jeff, Jeff, what do you think? His reply was, why you, Dad? What did you do to deserve the title? Talk about humbling. When I asked my daughter Laura that question, I got the same deflating answer. I don't get it, Dad, she said. I guess maybe you could be Granddad of the Year, but not Father. Well, surely I thought, well, if I ask Arlene, maybe I get a different answer. No, not a chance. A good father, fine, but why Father of the Year? Well, I was dejected and deflated, and I turned down the title. I had gotten the message. I needed to be a better father. I stepped up taking family trips to our home in St. Barth. I became even more ready and eager to babysit our grandkids. I further mended my ways by becoming the first one up in the morning to prepare breakfast for the grandkids on our vacations. I gave Arlene an obscene amount of money to spend and some more trust funds. 5 years of repentance later, as luck would have it, my good friend Mark Heller thought to give me a second chance. Would I accept the honor along with President Bush? Well, first of all, would I dare to? Nervously, I took another family poll. After 5 years of doing my best to be a better father, and this time, thank God, I got my family's permission. Not that I believe I actually deserve it more, but at least this time they're here and they're not laughing at me. My mother Esther is here today, along with my incredible wife Arlene, together with Laura, her husband Ronnie, Jeff and his wife Stacy, and several of my grandchildren, Josh, Amanda, and Ryan. If you guys would stand up and give me a treat. Today, of course, as Father's Day approaches, my father Aaron is especially on my mind. Sadly, we lost him 3 years ago, but his influence on me and my life is ever present. Dad was a Holocaust survivor who immigrated to Israel. He received a tiny piece of land, a cow, and a chicken to start a new life as a farmer after the war. I have no real memory of Israel and the first 6 years of my life, except for the certainty that Dad worked very hard and ultimately managed to bring my mother and me to the United States to pursue the American dream. Surely enough, he began his own business, which ultimately became our family business, the G3 Apparel Group. As I know is the case with many children of hardworking dads, when I was a boy, I didn't know my father well. All I really knew was how determined he was to support my mother, my brother, and me. Many years later, after I was running the business and Dad shared an office with me, I finally got to know him as a man. We became very close, and what I came to understand was this: beneath his tough outer shell, which I assume he in part developed to protect himself in Poland during the Holocaust, was a tender-hearted soul who was totally soft at his core. And I understood even better that my dad was all about family, protecting us and supporting us. I've tried to follow in his footsteps, however imperfectly I have done so. I'll always remember well the first time I held Laura in my arms as just a tiny infant. I was 24 when Laura was born. Being dad was a whole new world for me. Many memories flood my mind as I think about her childhood, including teaching her how to drive, being convinced that she'd fail the test, and being so relieved when she called me at a client's office. I remember the exact moment. We were both happy as I learned Laura is now a successful driver. Years later, when she was grown up and working in our company, I was delighted to have a chance to go to Asia and visit Korea and Indonesia together with Laura. Now that she's an amazing parent living in Miami with her husband Ronnie, I may never get that same chance to travel abroad with Laura alone again, but I'm glad for what we shared. I'm also proud to see the mom that she is now, with 3 great kids, Josh, Matt, and Sabrina. She's a dedicated mom, tending to the needs of her children. She drives them everywhere, to school, dancing lessons, basketball, football. Laura's always there. And she's a great person, and she's just a wonderful mother and a great daughter. Jeff and I, meanwhile, had a special connection through sports, going to Super Bowl games together since he was 10 years old. One of my proudest moments was when Jeff graduated law school and independently decided to come to work at G3. Today, just as I had shared an office with my dad, Jeff works alongside of me. That helps me see each day that he's a better and more attentive father than I was. If his 7-year-old daughter Amanda is on stage for 30 seconds, Jeff is right there. He's applauding and cheering her on. Same thing with Ryan, who's 5. Tomorrow, for example, is Ryan's nursery school graduation. I know where Jeff will be, and it won't be at work. Myself, I was on a road so much, following in my dad's footsteps, building a business. And whatever time or effort it took, I know I missed some important moments for both Laura and Jeff. Thank God we had Arlene, the love of my life and the best mother our kids could have hoped for. While I was overseas every 6 or 7 weeks, Arlene was mother and dad. In many ways, to tell you the truth, the Father of the Year in our house goes by the name of Arlene. She and Laura shared weekends away at the spa when Jeff and I were at Super Bowl games. She taught Laura the art of shopping and helped her with her homework. She's the one that created flashcards for Jeff, helping him memorize the name of designers that would help him in the apparel business, while he used flashcards to teach her the names of football teams. I look back and wish I could also have been in multiple places at once, on client trips overseas, but also back home with family that I love. Arlene was really the hero of our house. I also wish I could have been a little more patient. Those of you who know me know that patience really isn't my greatest strength. Both of my kids are better parents than I was. Just a few weeks ago, as Vice President Joe Biden dealt with the tragic news that he lost his son, Beau, to brain cancer, he quoted his father's observation that a parent knows success when his child turns out better than he did. In truth, it's only by that measure that I can stand here today with a straight face, because especially with thanks to Arlene, our 2 kids are people I'm so very proud of. They're absolutely great, and they've always been that way, like role models, really, of what a son and a daughter should be. So although I feel a little bit like a fraud, being able to stand here now and see them looking back at me, and look out at Arlene, who is the #1 reason there's such remarkable people and parents today, it is worth the slight embarrassment of feeling I'm not really the Father of the Year. That plus the chance that it gives me to proclaim my admiration, respect, and support for Save the Children, helping young people in need all around the world, from Nepal to Nebraska. That is the biggest honor, to play a role with all of you in the crucial work that these people do, investing in children and therefore in the future. I appreciate the chance. Thank you very much.
Okay. We don't forget the, please, text. Okay, we're over $14,000. Thank you very much for that, Dan. Again, I'll say the number one last time, 347-602-3157. Now, it gives me great pleasure to introduce a woman who many of us have known since she was a young girl. Barbara Bush has made her own mark creating the Global Health Corps, a nonprofit she co-founded to build a movement for health equality all across the world. Global Health Corps places young professionals from the United States and abroad in pairs to work together for 1 year, serving poor communities in East Africa, Southern Africa, and in the United States. Barbara is a member of the UNICEF's Next Generation Steering Committee and is on the board of directors of Covenant House International, Friends of the Global Fight for AIDS, TB, and Malaria, and the UN's Global Entrepreneurship Council. Please join me in welcoming Barbara to the podium to introduce our last awardee, Barbara Bush.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. When my dad told me he was going to be in New York to receive this award, I wondered who nominated him. But we're so happy to be with him today to celebrate, and I'm really happy to be here because I won't be with him this Father's Day, and I think my presence here means I'm gaining a few extra Father's Day points because my sister's not here. So I think I'm winning, but she actually co-wrote this speech with me. My father, I'm going to hopefully get through this without crying, but it's the first minute and I'm already crying. My father, like many of yours, is a man of great love, a man who always put us first, and a man who created such normal circumstances for us when we were little that I grew up thinking everyone's grandfather was president. Seriously. As young girls, our family spent weekends at a lake overtaken with alligators in Texas. It was good fishing for my dad, not that great swimming for us, but we loved spending time at the cabin because there was no distractions. It was nature and family, and that was it. It's genetic. We cry genetically. After most dinners, my dad would ask, who wants to go on a night walk? And he must have known that my sister and I would be so eager to grab a flashlight and conquer the loop around the lake, the thrill of the looming alligators in the back of our minds. We walked with the moonlight as our guide and talked. And of course, I don't remember exact details of our conversations 25 years ago, but I remember the feeling of unconditional love, how safe we felt on our adventurous hikes. My dad loved his little girls so much that I know that those hours of uninterrupted time talking and listening about whatever our 7-year-old minds were thinking were as precious to him as they were to us. And those walks are symbolic of how he was as a father. Simple, always present, always there. We never doubted his love for us. My dad and mom not only brought us into the world, they brought the world to us. It was through their eyes when my mom was First Lady and my dad was president that we experienced the beauty and richness of other cultures. And we were inspired as we witnessed their work on social justice, literacy, women's issues in places like Afghanistan, Burma, and Tanzania. Like good teachers, they showed us what they wanted us to see, told us how we could do something about it, and then left it up to us whether to decide to live our lives in a way that would help bring a little light to a sometimes dark world. And it was through my parents that my sister and I were inspired to pursue our passions, global health and education, and now the Today Show for my sister. Our family has had a very full life, traveling and being together, and a pretty hilarious one too. If you told me my dad would have been president when he owned the Texas Rangers, I never would have believed you. And if you told me he would be a phenomenal artist at 68, I would have laughed. But that's why life with my dad has been so fun, because he believes in fully experiencing and living. Dad has had an impressive career, from being a pilot in the Texas Air National Guard, to starting an energy business, to purchasing the Texas Rangers, to being the 46th governor of Texas, and the 43rd president of the United States. And now he is a world-renowned artist. But it's not his career that impresses us. It's the fact that he's passionately pursued what makes him come alive, and he's brought those he loves along with him. And that is a life well lived. So you may know him as the 43rd President of the United States, but to us, he is our cutest dad, a man that my sister and I lovingly call Popsicle, and I would love for you to join me in congratulating him as Father of the Year.
So I deserve to win only because I raised two great girls. You just met one. I'm really proud of Barbara, who leads with her heart. And she's very much involved, as she said, with global health. And I guess an overused word in the global health space is amazing. She's amazing. And I love you, baby. Thanks for being here. Jenna, her twin Jenna is not here. She's continuing the warm relations I always had with NBC. Also is a mother of our first grandchild. Look, when you get to be over 65, as Morris will testify, all you do is sit around and talk about the medicines you take and your grandkids. Finally, I can talk about one. The smartest grandchild in America. This kid speaks Mandarin. I want to thank Matthew for this honor. I appreciate you thinking of me. Like Morris, I am pleased to be involved with the Children's Action Network, and I thank Mark Shriver for being here. You know what really irritates me? Somebody's got a famous family name. But I thank you, Mark, for being here, and it's good to see you. David, congratulations on your award. I got to hear David's story behind stage. He told me something very interesting. He was raised in Albuquerque, New Mexico, moved to Florida, up by Jacksonville, so his girls could go to a good school. If anything deserves you for the Father of the Year award, David, it's that. And I thank you very much for your dedication and the example you set. And then there's Morris. This place would be empty if Morris weren't the honoree. So long as our country is able to have somebody like Morris stand up here and talk about living the dream the way he lived the dream, we're going to be great. And I thank you for the example you set, Morris. They asked me to give a few comments about what fatherhood means to me. I'll tell you what it meant to me. It meant that it focused my attention on what's important in life. I think the most important priority for a dad is to be a dad. In my case, I might have been slightly self-absorbed at times, but when I became a dad, I only had one real job, and that was to provide for these little girls. Was I always successful? I don't know. They can be the witnesses. But I know this, it was my priority. As a matter of fact, I don't think I would have quit drinking had it not been for being a dad. You see, what happened to me was alcohol was becoming a love, and it was beginning to crowd out my affections for the most important love, if you're a dad, and that's loving your little girls. And so fatherhood meant sobriety from 1986 on. Fatherhood... I'm not sure I'm more patient. One of my favorite lines, people say, was it like raising teenage girls? Here's my line. I love you. There is nothing you can do to make me stop loving you, so stop trying. I hope I'm more patient, although Laura may challenge that, and Barbara and Jenna may challenge it. But I learned that in order to be the kind of father I needed to be, I had to listen and be a patient person. I also learned of unconditional love. It's one of the greatest gifts a dad can give a child, which leads me to a fitting reading I'm about to do, and a practical one, fitting because I'm about to read from the book that I wrote about my dad. Practical because I'm retired, and I hope people buy it. It may be a little confusing for some up here to know that not only can I read, I can write. And so I'm going to read from 41, a portrait of my father. Matthew told me that everybody's got one of those books, and I want to thank you very much. By the way, it's not an excuse not to go buy another one. This is the beginning of the book. In late May 2014, I received a phone call from Jean Becker, my father's longtime chief of staff. She got straight to the point. Your dad wants to make a parachute jump on his 90th birthday. What do you think? About 18 months earlier, Jean had called to review the funeral arrangements for my father. He had spent nearly a month in the hospital with pneumonia, and many feared that this good man was headed toward eternity. He could not walk, and he tired easily. In my phone calls to Dad, he never complained. Self-pity is not in George Bush's DNA. Now he was hoping to complete another parachute jump, the 8th of his life, counting the one he made after his torpedo bomber was struck by Japanese anti-aircraft fire over the Pacific in 1944. Are you sure he wants to do this? I asked. Absolutely, she said. What do the doctors say? Some say yes, some say no. What about Mother? She's concerned. She knows that he wants to do it, but she's worried that the jump will tire him out, and he won't be able to enjoy the birthday party that she was planning for that night. After some thought, I said, I think he ought to do it. Why? She said. Because it'll make him feel younger. The truth is, my opinion didn't matter much. After a parachute jump on his 85th birthday, my father had announced that he would make another jump on his 90th birthday. And George W. Bush, H.W. Bush, is a man of his word. A few weeks later, Laura and I arrived for the birthday celebration in Kennebunkport, Maine. The jump logistics were complete. The party was planned, and Mother was now on board. The afternoon before the jump, I sat next to Dad on the porch of his beloved home at Walker's Point, perched on a rocky outcropping over the Atlantic. I had been painting an ocean scene and was wearing cargo pants covered with oil paint. For a few peaceful minutes, we stared quietly at the sea. What are you thinking about, Dad? I asked. It's just beautiful, he said, still looking at the ocean. It seemed that that was all he had to say. We sat quietly for a few more minutes. Was he reflecting on the jump? His life? God's grace? I didn't want to interrupt. Then he spoke. Did those pants come in clean? I laughed, something I'd been doing with my father all my life. His quip was typical. He was not nervous about his jump or his life. He was at peace, and he was sharing his joy with others. The morning of Dad's birthday, June 12th, dawned chilly and gray. There was a modest breeze, about 15 miles an hour. At first, we feared that the clouds might force a change in plans. Fortunately, the veteran paratroopers coordinating the jump, known as the All-Veteran Group, determined that the visibility was sufficient. The mission was a go. The crew fired up the Bell 429 helicopter that was parked on the lush green lawn outside the two-story wooden cabin that served as Dad's office at Walker's Point. He was clad in a custom-fitted black flight suit with a patch that read 41 at 90. His pre-flight routine included a final weather clearance, a harness check, and an interview with my daughter Jenna. Even with his jump looming, he was willing to share his time to help his granddaughter. What's your birthday wish on your 90th birthday, Jenna asked. For happiness for my grandkids, he replied. I hope they have the same kind of life I have for 90 years. full of joy. He did have one more wish. Make sure the parachute opens. Family and friends gathered at the landing zone, the lawn of my parents' church, St. Anne's, the same place where Dad had landed 5 years earlier and where his parents had been married 93 years earlier. As Mother put it, if the jump did not succeed, at least we wouldn't have to travel too far for the burial. At about 10:45 a.m., one of the members of the jump team approached me. Mr. President, your father is airborne. A few minutes later, we spotted a small speck in the sky, the chopper at 6,500 feet. After the helicopter made a circle around the church, we saw several chutes pop open. 2 belonged to the video jumpers tasked with chronicling the leap. The other was a large red, white, and blue chute carrying Dad and master jumper Mike Elliott, who was making his 3rd jump with Dad and his 10,227th jump overall. The crowd cheered as the tandem headed our way. "They're sure coming in hot," my brother Marvin said, with a touch of worry. He was right. The wind had taken the chute off course. Mike corrected with a hard turn in the final descent. Dad slammed into the ground, skidded a few feet, and then face planted into the grass. The crowd went silent. Would he get up? Was he hurt? No one moved until the ground crew lifted him into his wheelchair. The grandkids struck up a chorus of happy birthday to camouflage their anxiety. Finally, the sea of uniforms parted. George H.W. Bush had a smile on his face. I grabbed Mother and we walked toward Dad. She leaned over and gave him a kiss. I followed with a handshake and hug. "How'd it feel?" I asked. "Cold," he said. "Sure proud of you, Dad. That was an awesome jump." He pointed to his partner. Mike did all the work. As Jeff recounted from my book, here's what I wrote. The scene captured the character of George Bush. He was daring and courageous, always seeking new adventures and new challenges. He was humble and quick to share credit. He deflected attention from himself and refused to brag about his accomplishments. He trusted others and inspired their loyalty. Above all, he found joy in his family and his faith. Nothing made him happier than being surrounded by his wife, children, and grandchildren in a place where he had so many wonderful memories. After the jump, Dad returned to Walker's Point to eat, take a nap, and prepare for the 250 family members, friends, and Bush administration alumni attending the birthday party that night. He rewarded himself with a Bloody Mary over lunch. Then he received a call from his friend Arnold Schwarzenegger, the movie star and former governor of California. "Happy birthday," Arnold said, "to the most badass 90-year-old I know." I agree with Arnold's assessment. George H.W. Bush set an example for many people in many ways. He is determined to live his life to the fullest, to the very end. And here's how I end the book. November 2012, Dad checked into Houston Methodist Hospital with a bad cough. When Laura and I went to visit a few days later, he was wearing a brace around his abdomen and obviously suffering serious pain. "How you feeling, Dad?" I asked. He smiled. "It's not the cough that carries you off. It's the coffin you go off in." In typical fashion, he lifted our spirits. His condition worsened in early December. The brutal hacking cough turned to pneumonia. I called him often. I wanted to hear his voice and gauge his strength. At the end of every phone call, I said, "I love you." He would always reply, "I love you more." Fearing the worst, our family surrounded Dad. My brother Neil sat for hours at his bedside reading aloud to him. Jeb, Marvin, and Daro visited with their families. Laura and I made another trip to the hospital in December. This time we brought Barbara and Jenna. Jenna was 5 months pregnant. Before we went in, I told everyone, "Don't cry." I did not want Dad to sense our despair. As we entered the room, he could barely open his eyes and his voice was weak. "Hi, George, how are you?" "And there's Laura." Hi, beautiful. He lay back contentedly as Barbara and Jenna rubbed his head. Then he reached out and gently put his hand on Jenna's pregnant belly. There's death, and there's new life. We all left the room sobbing. Long ago, Lieutenant George Bush had narrowly escaped death in the Pacific. For the next 70 years, he made the most of life God had spared. He and Mother raised and loved 6 children. He served his fellow citizens at the highest level, striving above all to advance the cause of peace. He has lived a life of faith devoted to his family. In the winter of 2012, when he was still in a weakened state, I reminded him that my presidential library was scheduled to open the following April. I'll be there, son, he said. Sure enough, when on a beautiful sunny day in Dallas, the current and former presidents gathered at SMU, George H.W. Bush was there. He had battled through the illness and regained his strength. When it was his turn to speak, his voice was strong. It's a great pleasure to be here to honor our son, our oldest son, he said, trying hard to control his emotions. This is very special for Barbara and me. We're glad to be here. God bless America, and thank you very much. The crowd gave him a standing ovation. I cherished the moment, which a few months earlier had seemed like an unlikely dream. And then he turned to me. Too long, he asked. I said, perfect, Dad. Thank you very much. You know what your brother did?
Wow, that was incredible. I'd like to say a few thank yous. I'd like to thank Mark Shriver. So honored that he could join us as a past Father of the Year honoree and incredibly entertaining Master of Ceremonies. Thank you again, Mark. Really appreciate it. The support that Mark gives to this organization is incredible, and he's been a great partner throughout the years. We're also very proud to continue to work with the Save the Children U.S. programs, and again, the proceeds from today's luncheon will go to that. Text to pledge, while we did not meet last year's number, we are at $20,000, so thank you to all of you who have participated in that today. I must make a confession. I'm Kenny Bunkport. I'd also like to tell everyone that today's luncheon is a record-breaking fundraising event for us. And for those of you who like to plan out there, know numbers, we have a greater than 40% increase over the all-time high at $1.3 million. A few thank yous to some of the folks that are very important in making this event possible. I'd like to thank the incredible Father's Day Committee. Without their support and dedication, this would not be able to happen, and they're quite an inspiration to me and should be to all of you. Frank Chaloux, Wayne Drummond, Mel Goldfeder, Jonathan Greller, Michael Haskell, Mark Heller, Mitch Konsker, Michael McMullen, Danielle Poggi, Leah Robert, Elliot Rosenfield, Paul Rosengard, Sunil Sani, Glenn Shannon, Mark Schneider, Tyler Stewart, Billy Sussman, Richard Wurzberger. President and CEO of the Father's Day Committee, Dan Orwig. Of course, our Executive Director, Dana Verrill, and Office Administrator, Joan Reeves. A very sincere thanks to my assistant, Robin Marshall, for her incredible support to me and the entire Father's Day Committee. Special thanks to GQ for sponsoring the All-Star Dad Award. A final extended congratulations to all of our 2015 Father of the Year honorees. And finally, thanks to all of you for coming to help honor these men today. This concludes our event. I want everyone to have a great day. It is important for all of you to go home and hug your children and tell them that you love them. Happy Father's Day to everybody. Thank you.